Before we get started, I just need to say this to everyone who watches. Please go support the artists of the images used. Without them, this series wouldn't be a thing. If you can't read the writing on the images, I'll also be leaving their names and when you can find them before the intro. Please, please, please support them. They all deserve it. What up, Perv Army? Maximillian Senpai is back with another Rule 34 video. This video features someone who's already been in a previous video and will be in future ones. It's Noodle from Gorillas. Before we get started, I've got to say that this video will be age restricted by me because of its content. So if you're under the age of 18, please leave. But if you're over the age of 18, then please continue watching and enjoy. You'd finally found Noodle after chasing her around all day. Noodle was wearing this weird looking mask so that you couldn't see her face except for her mouth, which was curled into a beautiful smile. You blinked. Noodle was only wearing her socks and shoes, and the mask. You slowly walked up to her, softly placing a hand on her right shoulder. "Finally got you," you said. Without saying a word, and before you knew it, you were also wearing nothing and were laying on the ground on your back. Noodle was sitting over you, a leg either side, before she slowly lowered down towards William. Right before Noodle's purse could even reach William, you'd woke up from your dream. You sighed, looking around the room. "Damn it," you said. This was the closest you would have gotten to doing that with Noodle. The two of you were both 18 right now, and had only known each other for 4 years. Sure, you two were friends, and you liked her a lot, but you knew she wouldn't do that with you. You sighed again, shaking your head, and getting up and ready for the day. Alternate version of your dream. Noodle was standing over you, a leg either side, but this time the only thing she wasn't wearing were her trousers. Noodle looked over her shoulder down towards you, smiling, as she lowered herself down onto William. Noodle let out a groan. "This is good," Noodle groaned, smiling. Noodle slowly took everything inside of her purse, while still smiling over her shoulder at you. Just seeing Noodle's face made this just that bit better. It didn't take long before Noodle began moving up and down on William, taking him deep inside of her purse. Reaching the deepest depths, Noodle kept groaning and calling out your name, telling you that she wanted your sauce. You couldn't take it any longer and gave Noodle what she wanted. But just before you could release all of your sauce into the depths of Noodle's purse, your eyes opened and you woke up. "God damn it," you muttered. Noodle had called you to her room. You knocked on her door and entered. Seeing Noodle kneeling on the ground, you let out a sigh. "What are you doing?" you asked. Noodle's top was drooping and you could see her pillows. On top of that, she wasn't wearing any trousers and had a packet of balloons hanging from her mouth. "Do it with me," Noodle said. You facepalmed. You weren't even dating Noodle and knew that doing this meant nothing special to her. You never wanted to disappoint her, but you couldn't keep doing this with her, at least while the two of you weren't dating. "We can't keep doing this," you said. "Just be quiet and get over here," Noodle said. Minutes later. So, you couldn't help it. Right at this moment you were propelling William into Noodle's purse. Noodle's tongue was hanging out of her mouth as she repeated over and over how much she loved William. That was a bit of a letdown, because you wanted her to love you, not just William. You continued propelling over and over until you released all of your sauce inside of Noodle's purse. The next day, you'd seen something that you wouldn't think you'd ever see. Noodle was walking around the house wearing nothing at all. She'd never done that before and you didn't know why she had started it now. So, of course, you decided to quietly follow Noodle to wherever she was going. That turned out to be 2D's room. You blushed and slowly approached the door, hoping that she wasn't doing what you thought. Looking through the slightly open door, your heart sank. Noodle had her bottoms off and was sitting on 2D's lap with 2D's William inside of her purse. The two of them seemed like they were enjoying it. You balled your fists and without saying anything you stormed off and went to somewhere where you could be alone. The park. That would be the perfect place where you could sit and be alone, especially in this rainy weather. Later. You'd been sitting in the park all day under a shelter to hide you from the rain. You'd been doing some thinking, but still didn't know what to say to Noodle when you saw her next. You sighed, looking around and seeing that Noodle was sitting in the shelter across from you, flashing you her pillows. All you did was got up and walked away from her, going to hide underneath an old, abandoned dock, where you kept a small wooden boat. It was tied to one of the posts that was holding the dock up. You sat in the boat. Soon, Noodle stepped into the boat, before sitting down. The two of you were silent for 10 minutes before Noodle decided to speak. "I knew that you were watching us," Noodle said. "I didn't think you would care, as we're just friends." You let out a soft sigh. "I love you, Noodle," you said. Noodle smiled cutely and removed her clothes, before pushing you back so that you were lying down. Noodle removed your trousers before sitting down on your lap. William was standing up between Noodle's cushions. You smirked and grabbed Noodle under her cushions, positioning her correctly, so that William entered deep inside her purse. You held Noodle as you propelled William deep inside her, soon releasing all of your sauce inside. Noodle groaned out loudly, calling out your name, and this time, Noodle said something that made your heart beat fast. "I love you too," Noodle called. Thank you for watching this video. Please support the artists of the images, because without them, these videos wouldn't exist. There will be more Noodle Rule 34 in the future, but for now, if you liked the video, please leave a like and a comment. Also, consider subscribing to the channel if you want to see more content from me. And subscribing also means you join the Pervert Defense Force. Thanks for watching this video, perverts, and Maximillian Senpai will see you next time. Before we get started, I just need to say this to everyone who watches. Please go support the artists of the images used. Without them, this series wouldn't be a thing. If you can't read the writing on the images, I'll also be leaving their names and when you can find them before the intro. Please, please, please support them. They all deserve it. What's up, Perv Army? Maximillian Senpai here with another Rule 34 Storytime video. Just before we get started, everyone, I need to say that this video will be age restricted by me because of its content, meaning that you must be over the age of 18 to watch this video. If you aren't, then please leave, but if you are over the age of 18, then please enjoy the video. You were sent a message on your phone and checked it, seeing that it was a message from Noodle. You opened it, seeing a selfie of Noodle, who was sitting in front of a mirror, wearing nothing at all. Your entire face turned a light shade of red as you saved the photo for later. You weren't dating Noodle at all, so you didn't know why she was sending you pictures like this. You aren't complaining though, but you needed to know why. So you went out to find Noodle. You soon found her and approached her. "Hey Noodle," you said. Noodle smiled at you. "So the picture you sent me," you said. "Just want to know why you sent it." All Noodle did was flip her skirt, showing off her cushions, before walking away from you. You blinked. That didn't answer your question, but it was a lovely sight. A couple of years later, you lived with Noodle and the others. At this moment, you needed to talk to Noodle. When you found her, you saw that she was wearing a tiger onesie, which looked very adorable on her. You approached her, smiling softly. "Hey Noodle, you got a minute?" you asked. "Yeah," Noodle said. You began talking to Noodle about one of the songs the group was working on, but you realized that Noodle really didn't care, and began teasing you with her tiger tail that was attached at the back of her onesie. You tried your best to ignore her, and just continued to talk, while your cheeks turned a light shade of red. You continued talking to Noodle, who was still teasing you. Noodle had now sat down, wiggling her cushions a bit while spinning her onesie tail around. You gulped and went to say something, but Noodle turned towards you, kneeling down, looking up at you with her tongue out, while flashing her pillows at you. William stood up, which Noodle seemed to notice. "Perfect," Noodle said. Noodle stood, her back towards you, before backing up and rubbing her cushions against William, while reaching back and slowly rubbing both your cheeks with her hands. You wrapped an arm around Noodle's waist, using the other to pull William out. Noodle stepped forward and smirked. "We're gonna do it?" Noodle asked. "Hell yeah," you replied. You were now lying down with Noodle sitting on your lap. William was pressed between her clothed cushions. Noodle was looking over her shoulder at you, growling like a kitty cat, while clawing the air with her left hand. Noodle began wiggling her cushions, making William happy. You groaned softly, unable to take it anymore. You grabbed Noodle and pushed her forward onto the ground before kneeling behind her. Noodle's pillows were pressed against the ground while her cushions were raised up. A smirk crossed Noodle's face. You ripped her outfit so that you could see her purse and cushions, before propelling William straight into her purse. The two of you groaned out together as you continued to propel William with great speed. Noodle released her apple juice 3 times within half an hour, before you eventually released your sauce inside of her purse, filling up her purse as you both groaned out happily together. Thank you for watching this video. Please support the artists of the images, because without them, these videos wouldn't exist. If you liked the video, please leave a like and a comment. Also, consider subscribing to the channel if you want to see more content from me. And subscribing also means you join the Pervert Defense Force. Thanks for watching this video, perverts, and Maximillian Senpai will see you next time. Welcome back everyone, Maximillian Senpai is here with another storytime video, featuring images from everyone's favourite site. You all know what I'm talking about, the title says it all. Today's video features... Now, without any further delay, let's get into the video. Earlier that day, Noodle was home alone, which she didn't really mind. Noodle was in her room, checking herself out in front of her mirror. She was waiting for you to come back home from shopping, so that the two of you could have some fun together. However, Noodle just couldn't wait. She removed all her cloth, staring at her own pillows for a moment, before sitting down in front of the mirror, smiling, and starting to search through her purse, hoping to find some money inside of it. You arrived home around 10 minutes later, and walked into Noodle's room, seeing what she was doing. "Starting without me?" you asked. Noodle looked at you with a smile as you walked over to her, smiling, and helping her to her feet. You grabbed Noodle's shoulders, standing behind her, and rubbing William against her purse, before he moved between her cushions, just sitting between them happily. "I want to have fun now," Noodle said. "I've been waiting for you all day." The two of you repositioned yourselves, with you lying on your back, William standing tall and happy. Noodle couldn't help but smile brightly, before playing a game with William. William was noticeably happy. Noodle and William kept playing for a while before stopping. Noodle wasn't going to let William release his barbecue sauce, not yet anyway. Noodle giggled, kissing the top of William's head. "You can search around in my purse now," Noodle said. "I couldn't find anything in there, but you might have some luck." You and Noodle went straight to having some more fun, which Noodle seemed extra happy about. William was searching around inside of Noodle's purse, hoping to find some spending money. You and Noodle were having a conversation while William was searching. It didn't take long before William found some money. He was so happy about this that he released all his barbecue sauce from his nose, and most of it got inside of Noodle's purse, which she didn't seem to mind at all. Thanks for watching, Perv Army. If you liked the video, please like, subscribe, and turn on notifications. Don't feel like you have to though, only if you really enjoyed the content. Thanks again for watching, and Maximillian Senpai will see you next time. Goodbye. How's it going, perverts? Maximillian Thompson here, doing another Rule 34 story video. This video contains one of my favourite members of my favourite band ever, Noodle from Gorillaz. Now, just to inform you that the story video will only contain Noodle Phase 3 and above, because in Phase 1 and 2 she isn't of age. And if you were looking for Phase 1 and 2 Noodle, then you can screw right off with that creepy shit. I don't want you here if you're into that. Anyway, this video will be age restricted by me, meaning that you must be over the age of 18 to watch this video. And if you aren't, then please leave the video right now. You've been warned. If you're over the age of 18 and watching this, then please enjoy the video. You having fun then, Noodle? You asked. Noodle gave you a thumbs up as she continued sucking and slurping on your, lollipop. Yeah, let's go with that. You're in the middle of writing a new song for the band. 2D had somehow entrusted you to do that. You didn't know why, but you just went with it. Now, let's get on to why Noodle was here, licking your lollipop. The two of you were the same age, and came into the band around the same time. You were best friends. And when the two of you turned 18, you began dating. Which meant that the two of you did things like this. That's all there really is to it. Noodle soon stopped looking up at you, Noodle? You asked. Can't help it, Noodle replied. You're taking a break. This wasn't much of a break. You still had to do some work here. But this was work that you didn't mind doing and was a lot more fun than writing songs. Noodle was on the ground, chest and stomach against it, with her cute butt up in the air. Noodle had nothing on from the waist down, and you were pushing your rod in and out of her lower front area. Hard and deep, just like normal. This how you wanted it? You asked. Noodle couldn't talk. Drool was pouring from her mouth as she held up a peace sign, which made you smirk. Being the type of person you were, you didn't take that as a proper answer, and continued inside of her recklessly, which just set Noodle over the edge. 2D was skating around the place doing whatever the hell he does. You were walking around, trying to find your friend, Noodle, who said that she'd meet you here. There was no sign of her though. A sigh escaped your mouth. She no-showed. You muttered. You turned around, wanting to let out another sigh, but you saw something, well actually someone, sitting at a chess table, a couple of meters away from you, smiling. This was Noodle. Noodle grabbed the top of her kinky kitty shirt and pulled it down, exposing the left half of her torso. You gulped and walked over to her, sitting down opposite her. You showed up, you said. Noodle pulled her shirt back up, smiling at you. Of course, Noodle said. I invited you here, didn't I? Right. Right, you said. So you wanted to play chess? Noodle smirked. Strip chess, Noodle said. Strip chess? You asked. Correct, Noodle said. The person who loses a game loses 2 items of clothing that their opponent chooses. Got it? You were a bit embarrassed by this, but nodded. Got it, you replied. The entire game ended with you only wearing your pants, and Noodle wearing nothing at all, which didn't really seem to embarrass her. Your girlfriend, Noodle, seemed to be in a trance this morning. You found her in her room, wearing naught, while on her knees, mouth open and tongue hanging out. You smoked and pulled out your pole, which stood tall. This was something that happened often. Noodle would go into this trance, just so you could have some fun with her. You slapped her tongue with your pole a few times, before patting the top of her head and applying some lipstick to her. This was one of your kinks. You then went to town on her mouth, pulling out when you were ready to release, but stopped yourself from doing so. Noodle didn't like the taste and would beat you if she ever found out. So you went behind Noodle, pushed her forward, and went to town on her lower front and back areas. You'd been invited up to Noodle's room, which was very weird. Noodle never really invited anyone inside of her room. You stopped outside and took a deep breath before knocking on her door. Is that you? Noodle asked. Yeah, you said. Come in then, Noodle replied. You gulped and took another deep breath before entering Noodle's room. Your cheeks turned red and you quickly turned around, not looking at Noodle. Noodle had her shirt lifted up, showing her torso. Noodle, you managed. What? Noodle said. You don't like it? You blushed. It's embarrassing, you said. Noodle laughed and walked over to you, grabbing your shoulders. She was an entire foot taller than you, which was embarrassing. We're dating, right? Noodle said. I wanted you to, with me. You looked over your shoulder, seeing that Noodle was smiling down at you kindly. You gulped and slowly nodded. If it's something you want, you said, then it's fine. Noodle smiled brightly and stepped away from you, turning around and bending over, before removing her bottoms, showing you her bare lower area. Come on then, Noodle said. This place is creepy, Noodle, you said. It's fine, Noodle replied. Just, look this way. Focus on me. You looked towards Noodle, seeing that her legs were spread, and you could see everything up her skirt. You blushed and shook your head, turning away and dusting off an old record player. I love seeing you blush, Noodle said. You didn't bother to answer her. Noodle laughed again and stood up, walking over to you and wrapping her arms around you from behind. Something's tenting your pants, Noodle said. You blushed deeply and stepped out of Noodle's embrace, covering your crotch with your hands. You walked to the other side of the room, only glancing back at Noodle after examining a dusty shelf. Noodle had opened up her jacket, teasing you. Your entire face was red at this point, as you quickly rushed over to the stairs, leaving Noodle alone in the basement. You knew that you shouldn't have left Noodle down in the basement all alone, but it was just very irritating that she wouldn't keep her clothes on. An hour had passed of you sitting by Russell, making sure that he didn't die in his sleep suddenly. This place was creepy, and Russell was a very good friend to you. When you made sure that Russell wasn't going to die, you decided to go back down into the basement to check on Noodle. Noodle was sitting bare on the floor, a slime-like substance on her face and chest. You began. Noodle blinked and looked up at you, smiling. What's that on your face? You asked. I don't know. It's been leaking from the roof, Noodle said. You looked up and didn't see anything, and sighed. Clothes on and come upstairs, you said. Noodle shook her head. I'm staying down here. I like it, Noodle said. You sighed. Fine, you said. Noodle grabbed her phone and plugged in her headphones. Sleep time, Noodle said. You sighed once more. Be careful, you said. Noodle had her headphones in already, and couldn't hear you. You just turned and left the basement, once again leaving Noodle in there alone. Again, you had the feeling that this was the wrong thing to do. You were very tired, having stayed up the past 2 days and nights before coming here. You'd fallen asleep on the stairs and had a dream of this large tentacle thing doing fun things with Noodle. Things that girlfriends and boyfriends do. This was very strange, as you couldn't look away from it. It was one of those dreams where you're frozen in place. The only thing that made you wake up was the tentacle thing releasing inside of Noodle, who let out a very happy and cute scream. You woke, looking around, noticing that you were still uncomfortably laying on the stairs. You managed to get up and slowly make your way back down into the basement, turning around a corner and seeing Noodle lying on the ground, passed out with her butt in the air. Noodle's glasses were lying on the ground next to her. Her lower back area was stretched and leaking with the same slime substance as before. You sighed and walked over to Noodle, picking her up and shaking her head. Noodle was drooling a lot. You should have listened to me, you muttered. You walked Noodle upstairs and took her into a spare room, making sure that no one else entered that room, before going down to retrieve Noodle's clothes from the basement. Thank you for watching this video. Please support the artists of the images, because without them, these videos wouldn't exist. There will be more Noodle Rule 34 in the future, but for now, if you liked the video, please leave a like and a comment. Also, consider subscribing to the channel if you want to see more content from me. And subscribing also means you join the Pervert Defense Force. Thanks for watching this video, perverts, and Maximillian Senpai will see you next time.